have a contract on a purchase in Newport Richey, and I have 2 renter clients.
Congratulations. Way to go. Good stuff. Way to go.
I'm finally picking up some people from up north, referrals down here. I got 3 in the last probably 2 or 3 weeks from up Michigan. So I've been trying to get old contacts going again. But
that's great. That'll help. That sphere, that sphere is where it's at, right? In your database. Good stuff. Congratulations. What else? Tell me something good. What are you excited about? What's your good news?
Excited about Mega Camp.
Excited about Mega Camp. Yeah, that's going to be exciting. When Gary Keller says he learned 25 things at least that he didn't know before, I'm excited to find out what those 25 things are. You know, that's pretty cool. That'll be awesome. Be a lot of major ahas and good opportunities to learn.
Question about that.
Yeah.
This is Jan. Can I still sign up for Mega Camp? I know I'm doing it late.
Yes.
I'll do it right after this.
Yes, you can.
Megacamp.kw.com.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Tamara.
You're welcome.
What else? Tell me something good as we gather. What are you excited about? Tell me something good, or share an aha that you had. Kick off the conversation. Hey, Jake.
Hey, Gary.
How you
I
doing?
got something good for you. We 5 listing appointments this week.
5 listing appointments. That's exciting, especially in this time
Yeah,
of.
5 set, 3 attended. 3 attended. Well, we'll be attended this afternoon. Will be our 3rd, and they're all database, so we should take all 3 of them this week, and the 2 we set for next week as well.
That's great. People are getting off the fence, huh? They're getting off the fence and getting ready to put their houses on the market, right?
Well, you know, I remember we had the South Florida Mastermind with Tony DeCello a couple weeks ago, and
Right.
one of the things he talked about was urgency, and he would not accept that we don't create urgency. Like, we can't add urgency to our clients. And he was like, I'm pushing back right there. Like, we certainly can. And
Yep.
how do we do that? And so that was a lot of this week's conversations, was taking their motivation and turning it into urgency.
Yeah, that's great. Exactly. I mean, if we don't push to some degree, you know, after care and concern, right? Common sense. But if we don't, if the opportunity is for them to have a discussion to find out what's in their best interests, then yeah, sometimes you need a little coaxing. Let's put it that way. Create a sense of urgency, right? And because time may not be on the seller's side. Right now, it's the best time in history for them to sell their house.
Exactly. You know, I had a coach, Craig Goodlife, and he always posed the question, you know, how do you create urgency?
Mm-hmm.
And after thinking a minute, there's another U word that goes along with urgency, and it's uncertainty.
Yep.
And that's where we can then, you know, care, you know, and then get to the candor of, you know, here's what waiting might mean for you. Are you okay with that?
Right, exactly. We call that putting them in harm's way, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, because
And that's what closed them.
there you go, because we don't know what the market's going to be like next month, 6 months from now. There might be this window of opportunity right now for sellers. I mean, if interest rates go up to any significant degree for any reason, that could change the whole spectrum of buyers coming out of the woodwork, right? And right now, buyers are out there. The demand is very, very strong, and what's driving it is interest rates being so low. There's no doubt about that. And values are still down. I mean, to speak of. Yeah, they're rising, but there's still more room for them to catch up to where they were in the past. So it's definitely a good buying opportunity, affordability wise, and it's a good selling opportunity, the best in history for sellers, in my opinion. In my history, in my lifetime anyway, 35 years just about in real estate.
Well, that encompasses my lifetime as well, Gary, so I'll roll with that.
There you go. I haven't ever seen month supplies of inventory at 1 for non-distressed properties, or 2. I've never seen pendings almost double what the actives are in the marketplace for Pasco and Hillsborough counties, which we're going to see today, or significantly higher than what the actives are. That's kind of interesting. So he who is able to procure listings is going to control this market. Right? So congratulations.
Yeah, a listing is a closing.
There it is. And buyers actually need to sell too, right? A lot of times buyers, so don't shortchange buyer inquiries. You know, in the old days, buyer inquiries for people that were hunting listings all the time, they looked at a buyer inquiry as, oh no, they're not really motivated to, you know, I mean, I don't want to deal with buyers because, you know, I want to deal with listings, right? Well, screen those buyers, close those buyers, do buyer consultations, because those buyers need to sell houses too. And a lot of times they don't want to sell their house until they find something to buy. So we kind of have to go at it backwards. Do the buyer consult, have them commit to you on the buyer side with the buyer listing agreement, and then at the same time list the property as well and find them something to purchase. Good, what else? Tell me something good. Thanks, Jake. Anybody else? Tell me something good or give me an aha. What have you learned? What are your thoughts?
I just had another lead come in yesterday just from a referral. So
That's
good.
nice. Referrals are great leads. They, you know,
Yep.
referrals are great leads because you know, the yes answers to those, the yes answers to those three questions: do they care about me? Are they good at what they do? And can I trust them? Usually the good at what you do and the trust are already answered in advance, right? When you get a referral. So that's the cool part. All you got to do is demonstrate that you care about how you listen, right? What else? Tell me something good. Give me an aha.
I closed one deal last week and I got a listing appointment for next week.
Congratulations. How'd you get the listing appointment?
It's through one of my friend in Tarpon.
Great. So it's a referral.
Yes,
Great.
sir.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Way to go. That's awesome. Yeah, like Jake says, listings are money in the bank. You know, you have to do a lot wrong for a listing not to sell right now, right?
Yes, sir.
But still, pricing is still not unimportant, right? You know, it's still important that we get them priced correctly and prepare them for what is to come. Good. What else? Tell me something good. Give me an aha. I see lots of names, but not lots of faces.
I can add, I don't have my camera on, but we just listed a rental property in Temple Terrace, and it's been getting a lot of attention, which, lesson learned, make sure to set expectations with the tenants.
Yes. Yes, that's for sure. Yeah, it's important. It's important to have that conversation, prepare the tenant for what is to come. Actually find out if they can be a buyer too. It's happened several times where the actual tenant wants to buy the house and check and see if they have the capacity and capability to, you know. But a lot of times they're not going to be cooperative, especially if they want to stay there, right? What else? Tell me something good. Give me an aha. Anybody? Okay, let's jump into the materials.
Hey, Gary, I wanted to remind everybody real quick who joined in a little bit later that your materials can also be downloaded right from ubaldinitraining.com. Find the class, click in there where you found the Zoom link. There's also a PDF.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Tamara.
Hey,
You're
Gary. Hey,
Yes.
Gary, it's Honey. I finally just figured out my unmute button. I have something good to share.
Okay, great. Share.
I lost a listing a while ago. That wasn't the great part. The great part was that I was cordial, I was pleasant, and I just got a referral from the buyers of that property who happen to now be my neighbors. They referred me to their daughter and son-in-law to purchase a house because I was so kind and helpful and showed grace and dignity.
Well, congratulations.
So that was really cool.
It is very cool, and that's what being professional and being kind and not taking things personal can do for you in this business.
Yeah, it worked out.
So great job, great job.
Thank
Right.
you.
We're not going to win every time, but if we do it with grace and dignity and professionalism, you'll have other opportunities with those same people.
Yes.
And the other thing is there's value in just knowing people. You know, a lot of times, you know, people think they have to do business, or they don't want to go on certain appointments because they're not going to do business today. I'm a believer that even if it doesn't turn into business that day, you can build a relationship for life when you meet them face to face or by Zoom these days, and give them a demonstration of what being in business with you would be like. And you can earn their referral business for life. There's value in knowing people.
For sure.
Anybody else? Anybody else have anything to share or anything that you've learned that you'd like to contribute? Okay. How to make yourself more valuable. Is that something that you'd be interested to hear about? Yes?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that'd be great.
All right, great, great. Okay, here we go.
Absolutely.
Jim Rohn again, my pal Jim Rohn. I'm a very big proponent of activity, labor, and discipline. In fact, I devoted one of the 5 major pieces of the life puzzle to the subject of activity and labor. But now let me add another key word to the labor question: skillful. Yes, skillful labor. We need skills to help build our family's dreams, the skills to stir up an enterprise and make it successful. We need skills to build equities for the future. We need skills of all kinds. How about this? Skillful language. If you just talk to your family, you can hold them all together. But if you skillfully talk to your children, you can help them build dreams for the future. You can't be lazy in language. It costs too much. What if you meant to say what's troubling you, and instead you said what's wrong with you? That's too big of a mistake. And sure, maybe you've made that mistake 10 years ago, but not now. You should always be improving in language and communication. Skills multiply labors by 2, 5, 10, 50, 100 times. You can chop a tree down with a hammer, but it takes about 30 days. That's called labor. But if you trade the hammer in for an axe, you can chop the tree down in about 30 minutes. What's the difference in 30 days and 30 minutes? Skills. Skills make the difference. So do what you can, labor, but also do the best that you can do, improved skills. And you'll find that the labor combined with skills will start producing miracles. Miracles with your money, miracles with your family, and miracles in every part of your life. Any ahas? Anything, any meaning that anybody gets from that?
I do, Gary.
Yes, Jake.
So this is exactly what Angela Duckworth talks about in Grit. I don't know, has any, who's read or listened to Grit before?
Uh-huh.
You'll remember what she talks about in Grit is that talent alone doesn't equal achievement, that you have to apply skill with the talent to do the achievement, and it's a multiplier effect.
Yep.
So we're all naturally talented. However, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get listings at the end of the day just because we're talented.
Yep.
Yet if you add a great script and your talent, you've got the multiplier effect. You're literally building the skill while you're going for the achievement. And that's kind of what you just talked about there, in that, you know, it's effort times skill, or effort times talent equals the skill. But then if you're applying that same effort while using the skill, that's really what then gets you the achievement.
Exactly. Exactly. Good stuff. Yeah, it takes evaluation of what you're doing. First, it takes discipline, and it takes repetition, and it takes evaluated practice. Okay. Yes.
Can I build on? I was exactly going to say that, because listening to Jake and then listening to you use the word evaluation, sometimes I don't realize that I've built a skill except I'm coming back from an appointment and I know the client is mine.
Mhm.
And so I go back and I say, what did I do that made it happen?
Mhm.
And that's when the skill doesn't just become that one time. I can use it again and again and again.
Right.
I'm really building on it.
Exactly. Exactly. Good. Good. Good.
Oh, and to add to that, Gary, where it starts, I think, is, the levels of consciousness. You got to know what you know and know what you don't know.
Yep.
And get your ego out of it. So then you can say, okay, yeah, I got talents, but I'm not, me alone as the talent isn't, I got to be humble about that to say, okay, I need to use that talent to build what I can make sure that when I do apply the effort, that I'm using the axe, not the hammer. And so I'm not just sitting there swinging all day, that I'm, so I believe that really starts with, taking your ego out of it and then knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know and getting into that consciously competent where now you're going to go focus on what matters.
Yeah, you said a mouthful there for sure. Ego and humility. Right?
Yeah.
It's good to lift yourself up and celebrate successes, but it's also good to know where it came from and be grateful for it. Right? It's not just about you, and it's good to recognize what skills you've developed, but it's a constant journey. If you want to keep getting what you're getting, don't grow. In fact, you'll start losing what you're getting if you don't grow. But the only way to achieve more and to become the best version of yourself is to be humble and to stay in curiosity, without being attached to an outcome, and celebrate learning as well as results. Because a lot of times you don't get the results that you want, but the lessons learned, if you don't take things personally, you can learn lessons that will build skills and help you grow. Does that make sense? And that's what it's all about. That's how skill is built, is through practice, through repetition, through evaluated practice, through not being attached to results, to not taking things personally. It's all part and parcel. And those are the things, it's getting knocked down and being able to get back up, because it's about, it's about keeping things even, not getting too high and not getting too low, not claiming too much credit for the success and not blaming yourself too bad for the departures, for the things that fall apart, because you got to stay on an even keel. You can't be a teeter-totter while your clients might be emotional wrecks. You follow what I'm saying? So that's, in my opinion, what it takes to build. And that's what he says in a mouthful. Anybody else? Any thoughts on that? It's a journey of learning, guys. You're constantly in a world of becoming more valuable to the market.
Gary, I think it's interesting. Not being attached to the result is the thing that has made me be able to step back and objectively understand what's happening, kind of looking at it like an observer rather than a participant sometimes. And
Yeah.
it's okay if it doesn't work in my favor, because maybe it actually is working in my favor and I don't even know it yet. Like maybe that was not the right thing for me, or having some faith that whatever happens is going to happen as long as you're putting forth your best effort. I guess trust and faith.
Exactly, and not being attached to an outcome can foster faster learning, and also less beating yourself up.
You can cling on to that outcome that you think you want, and it can be it's just not useful.
Right. So how do we hold ourselves accountable for results when we're not attached to an outcome?
True.
Doesn't it seem like a conflict?
I mean, going and like whatever, I go for it, and I make sure that I'm doing everything I can to be better at it, so I get it, whatever it is that I'm going for. And it's not a sense of, oh well, I take it personally, and I always look, what's the thing I can learn from, how can I change, what could I have done better?
Awesome.
But I'm not going to beat myself up about it the whole time, because that is a waste of energy for me.
Right. You find the blessing in everything that happens for you, whether it's adversity or whether it's opportunity, whether there's results that you want or maybe not yet. So it's important to kind of, it's mindset, right? I mean, really, it's mindset and perspective and philosophy, and what's going to foster your growth faster. What's going to help you move from your level of skill now to the next level. Because the more and more skills you develop, the more and more value you create, the more you get from the marketplace. The more you give to the marketplace, you get from the marketplace. Brian Tracy always says, you're getting from the marketplace right now what your value to the marketplace is. So if you want to get more from the marketplace, what do you need to do? Bring a more valuable you to the marketplace. And that's growth. That's developing skills. That's the path to mastery, which we teach in the 6, business perspectives, right?
Gary,
Yes.
I can't sit here and say that I'm not emotionally involved in a transaction. On some level, I am. However,
Most of us
where that happens is in my house with the people who love me, who can take it.
Right. Well,
that's where I'm emotionally involved, or I let my emotions out. But there's a difference. In front of my clients and with other realtors, I'm professionally invested in that transaction. And that's where I try not to bring the emotions into that professional investment.
Right.
That's where I have to keep my emotions out of it, because that doesn't help the client that I'm representing. So that's how I look at investment. It's not that I'm not emotional about it. I may be, but nobody ever sees it.
Right. And the thing is
I had to learn that the hard way.
me too. And that comes with experience. What I'm talking about is easier said than done. There's no question about it. But the more you're able to master that process, the faster you'll recover. Because the point is when you get emotional and you get angry, you get upset, whether it's with someone else or yourself, the more you're literally knocked out of commission.
And you're not working with facts then. You're working with feelings.
Right.
And facts are what drive the transaction from point A to point B.
And fact, data, and logic will help you and your client get through emotion.
Yes.
Fact, data, and logic. That's why I share these numbers with you every week, every month. Yeah. Good stuff.
Very good. I like that.
Good stuff, guys. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Okay, let's go to the next article. Today is the only day that matters. When success turns your head, you face failure, Coach Wooden says. This quote was not about handling adversity, but rather about managing success. When Coach Wooden was asked, you've won 10 national championships, 7 in a row. Once you started winning those championships, how did you maintain your commitment to excellence without getting complacent? He replied, today is the only day that matters. It's the only day you can do anything about. Make each day your masterpiece. The past will never change. Anything that happened will never change. The future is yet to be. You've just got to concentrate on today. And if you do, that the future will take care of itself. That doesn't mean you're going to win, because maybe you're not good enough to win yet, but you'll come closer to realizing your own potential. I love poetry, and many of my players know that, and many write me poems. One, Swen Nader, has written me over 100 poems. He's written a poem on almost every maxim I've used in all the blocks of my pyramid. And one that he wrote was titled Today. Coach, you're a hunter and a seeker, not for silver or for gold, not for treasure or for pleasure, or for anything that's sold. You're a connoisseur of living as you move along life's way, with no worries of tomorrow, for you've found today. You'll never know a thing you didn't learn from someone in the past. Yes, you learned from the past, but it's not going to affect what you do today. Tomorrow will be affected by what you do today. Do what you can today. Don't put it off. Do it today. I try to use that philosophy with my players to try to just become a little better each day. That's what I taught. Today is the only day you can do anything about. You can't just say it. You've got to do it. You've got to repeat it. Repetition is one of the laws of learning and must be used over and over. thoughts, ahas? I know I'm talking too much when my mouth gets dry, so.
I know for me, I'm personally going to share this article with my kids.
Mhm.
I talk to them about that a lot, about learning from our past, growing from our past, but focusing on today. What can we do today,
Mhm.
for our tomorrow? And so
Right.
personally, that hit me home.
We can't control what happened in the past, right? We can't control what happens tomorrow. The only thing that we can control is today, right now. So the better we can be at being appropriate in the moment, the better we can be at being congruent with what we're going to need to do today to be on track for our goals this week, this month, this year.
If I may, that this poem actually reminds me of a saying that talk about being in the now all the time. There was a saying that it's pretty fun to always bring up, but it goes, the past is but a memory, the future an expectation. Therefore, the past nor the future truly exists. There is only the eternal now.
Right.
And it is a powerful one because, I understand we got to prepare for the future. And one of the biggest things for my brother who was a Marine, he says, improvise, adapt, and overcome is one of their sayings.
Mhm.
Because you can have a goal and you have a plan, but boy, do you have to adapt most of the time. So just throwing
Well,
that
yeah,
out.
flexibility for sure. Yeah. Pivoting, right? Like we've done so much this year. And it's good. It's not saying not to have dreams and plans. What it's saying is be appropriate in the moment, like Gary Keller teaches us in Quantum Leap. It's about winning one day at a time and understanding what does it take for me to win today in your business and your personal life to have the best life you can possibly have. What are your tens on a scale of 1 to 10? Things that make you sing, things that bring you joy. What are your 50s on a scale of 10? What are your hundreds on a scale of 10? On a scale of 1 to 10? Over the top things, right? Are you having at least 110 every day? Something that brings you joy? Okay. So when you understand what you want and why you want it and what you're pursuing, and you attach what you're doing to achieving that, what you want, you're on fire. You're on fire because you're on a mission to create some value, to create some good for you and your loved ones, or your family, or your charities, or whatever the case may be. Okay, so it's about being appropriate in the moment, about doing the things that are going to keep you on the pathway towards what you want. Does that make sense? But today is the only thing that you can control. It's about winning today. Anybody else? Any thoughts, ideas? Okay, enough with that perspective stuff. Let's get down to some good news, real estate wise. Have you ever seen a housing market like this?
It's crazy.
It's crazy, but it's amazing. Okay, housing market recovery. The economy was intentionally put on pause this spring in response to the COVID-19 health crisis. Many aspects of the common real estate transaction were placed on hold at the same time. Thankfully, technology and innovation helped the industry power forward, and business gradually ramped up as shelter-in-place orders were lifted. The result, total transformation of the market from rock bottom lows to exceptional highs. Today, the housing recovery is being called truly remarkable by many experts and is far exceeding expectations. From pending home sales to purchase applications, buyers are back in business and homes are selling fast. So here's the graph that they shared. And that's an example of a V recovery. A lot of pessimists weren't thinking that it was going to be a V recovery. They were going to think it was going to be more prolonged. But overall, a good job has been done. And real estate's, as the KCM blogs experts have predicted, are driving the economy back to recovery, to a healthy area. So you can see how far we dipped and how far we've come back as of September the 3rd. Next page. Okay, the mortgage rates are a game changer. There's no question about that. That is driving buyers out there. Buyers have the opportunity to get more for their money. Continued home price appreciation. The pandemic has not stopped consistent home price growth we have witnessed in recent years as well. So lower mortgages, even though prices are going up, there's increasing affordability because the interest rates are so low that it can handle the price appreciation so far. So according to Mortgage News Daily, those shopping for a home can afford 10% more home than they could have 1 year ago while keeping their monthly payment unchanged. This translates into nearly $32,000 more buying power. So we talk about that. That's 10%. So if you've been in masterminds before, what causes an increase in buying power by 10%? Or what causes a decrease in buying power by 10%? An increase of 1% in the interest rate will cause you to lose 10% of your buying power. A decrease by 1% in the interest rate will cause you to increase your buying power by 10%. And that's what's happened. So bottom line, with mortgage rates hitting historic lows and home prices appreciating, affordability rising, the market recovery is like no other. 2020 has been quite a year for real estate, perhaps one we've never seen before and may never see again. That's the reason you want to create urgency. We talked about it with Jake before, with sellers on the phone to create appointments. I'm just going to wait this thing out, whatever the reasons are. You might be saying no to the best opportunity to sell your home in history, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know whether there's going to be a glut of inventory. We don't know if interest rates might go up. We don't know if there's going to be another pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen after the election. Would it be in your best interest to unlock your equity now and move on with the rest of your life?
Yes.
We can't be afraid to ask those questions. Any thoughts on that? Okay, more good news, Tamara. Next page, next article. The latest unemployment rate fell to 8.4%. Pretty interesting. An unemployment rate of 8.4% is much lower than most anyone would have thought a few months ago. It is still a bad recession, but not a historically unprecedented event, or one we need to go back to Great Depression for comparison. If anybody brings those words up, don't believe it. They're lying. We get a lot of lies in media these days. It's amazing. During the Great Depression, the unemployment rate was over 20% for 4 consecutive years. This April, the rate jumped to 14.7%, but has fallen each month since. During and after the Great Depression, 2007, the Great Recession, 2007 to 2009, the unemployment rate was at 9% or greater for 30 consecutive months. April 2009 to October 2011. Most economists believe the current rate will continue to fall monthly as the economy regains its strength. So what happens going forward? It's going to be determined by how quickly we contain the virus. There are still millions of Americans struggling through this economic downturn. There's, however, light at the end of the tunnel. The unemployment situation did not get as bad as many had predicted, and the recovery has taken place faster than most thought would happen. Good news overall, wouldn't you agree? Number of jobs that have come back over the past 4 months is historic. Millions and millions. And that's a good thing. People aren't working, they can't afford to buy a house. They don't qualify, right? Next page. Home buyer demand is far above last year's pace. Yes. And why is that? Pending home sales in July achieved another month of positive contract activity, marking 3 consecutive months of growth. Year over year, contract signing rose 15.5%. Scroll down a little further, hon. Thank you. Buyers have signed an increasing number of contracts to purchase homes, well above where the market was at this time last year. We're witnessing the true V-shaped sales recovery, which we saw on the graph a few pages back. As home buyers continue their strong return to the housing market, home sellers are seeing their homes go under contract in record time with 9 new contracts for every 10 new listings. Huh. Wow, what's that graph tell you? Look at the peak of the graph. And look at how far we went down to the depths, but we've risen past where we were with pending home sales. The numbers in our area prove that too. So what does this mean for sellers? It's time to make your move. Buyers are out there right now. There's so much demand in the marketplace right now that your house, if reasonably priced, is going to be gone quickly. Is the trend going to continue? The usual summer slowdown in the housing market is not happening this year. Buyers continue to show strong demand spurred by a new stay-at-home world of the coronavirus and by record low mortgage rates. So it's all going to be driven by how many people are going to be willing to sell their houses. The market needs homes to satisfy the ongoing buyer demand. Maybe it's time to leverage your equity and move up while eager home shoppers are ready to purchase a house like yours. One of the things that people might self-discover is, you know, how much they need another house, how much they've grown out of their current house, or how much their current house is too big for them. That's why it's important to have those care calls with your database, or even with people that you're cold calling, just to find out how they feel about their home and real estate in general. You know, it's a great time to move up. It's a great time to move down. There's no question about it. Any thoughts on these articles so far? Any ahas? Any challenges that you're facing that if you were able to overcome it would move you from where you are to the next level?
Gary, I'm having a challenge where I have people who want a house, but they want to buy a new house first. And with inventory as it is really challenging to find the house for them to buy. And that's holding up my listings. It's a struggle for me.
So what do we do to overcome that? Let's brainstorm that. What kind of options can we present in that situation that might help? You're not going to solve everybody's problem, but what are some ideas that can that you can suggest or mention to them that might help them through that? Anybody else facing that challenge? Anybody else facing that challenge?
Well, I mean, I was just thinking in another situation, mine's similar to that, but it is kind of tough one, because they go, well, I'm not going to sell until I, find a house out there. It is kind of that gridlock thing. And I was going to say, well, maybe you could find out their criteria and then go hunting for a house and then, solicit to those sellers, those owners, get another listing.
Doing it.
I figured, yeah, but it's still holding up those same ones. That's why I'm like,
Well, this is where curiosity is so important. Football, a lot of times offenses will take what the defense is giving them, right? You know, if the defense is protecting against a long pass, right, they'll throw short passes, or they'll run running plays, right? So right now in the real estate market, there's not a lot of inventory, and sellers that would sell their house are not willing to do that until they find a house to buy. So why don't we find them a house to buy first? Why don't we sit and meet with them and do a buyer consultation, and instead of not meeting with them at all? Why don't we sit and serve them as buyers so that they can become sellers for you? Why not build the relationship now and get very clear on what they want, and then invest some time in helping them find what they want if it's not available in the marketplace? You're just about going to lock in the listing. It's also going to deepen the conversation where you can ask more questions. You might find out that they have the capacity to buy without selling. Okay.
So Gary, yes, the situation I'm talking about, my buyers will buy a house first, close on it, and
Right.
then move into it before they sell. These are the buyers that I'm working with. So I already have them on, like, as exclusive brokerage agreements with these people who are actively looking for houses. But
Right.
it is just frustrating because I've got listings. I just can't find a buyer. I get them moved on, so they get them out of their house first. Put a sign in the yard.
Okay.
And
well,
when I do, it happens. As soon as they buy a house, we put the sign in the yard and we get the listing up.
okay. Have you exhausted all possibilities of finding them a house?
I think some people looking for unicorns, so we're having some expectation resetting. And then I was able to get one of my buyers into a house. They just closed on it and we put their house up. So it works.
Great.
I'm keeping on improving on it.
Okay.
I've got one idea.
Go ahead, Jan.
How about talking to Marie Polo? Today, people don't have to be close to their work anymore. New construction might be an option.
Yes, Maria and I actually have been talking quite a lot. And yes, that is one way to make it work.
That's great. That's a great. You took the words right out of my mouth, Jan. Great, good stuff. Right on the money. That's one way. Another way is to get so clear on exactly what they're looking for that you can pinpoint where they want to be, if you know, as far as preferences are concerned, and then call into those neighborhoods. You know, and you know, I think those are opportunities. You can call into those neighborhoods. You can do circle prospecting in the areas that they want to buy in, and see if you can locate someone to raise their hand that they might be interested in selling. You can search actives, as well as searching for actives, which you probably already have them on an instant plan, right? So you get notified every time something new comes on the market that might fit their criteria.
As well.
I would be searching old withdrawns and expireds with that same criteria to see if anybody that didn't sell their house before might be interested in selling it now to your buyer. You know, I'd be previewing FSBOs that might fit the criteria of your buyer. You know, I'd be doing all those things because not only does it mean they're going to find a house to buy, but you're going to get a listing at the same time. So it's really a profound benefit. And while you're doing that extra work for them on the buy side to get a buy sale and a listing at the same time, you may run into other listing opportunities in service of that buyer.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by taking what the market's giving you.
Like that.
Does that help you? Give you some thoughts? Give you some ideas? Yep. Awesome. Good. What else? Anybody else? Okay, next article. Home buyer traffic is on the rise. We're going to just scroll through this quickly. I think we already know this. Let's look at the graph. And again, the graph tells it all, right? And this is the reason why sellers should put their houses on the market right now, because buyer traffic is strong. That's that V-type recovery that we're talking about. Okay, next page. It's not just about the price of the home. We alluded to this earlier. With interest rates so low, and you can read the details of this article too. With interest rates so low, even if home prices are going up, The interest rates are so low that affordability is still strong. And this article basically is talking, it says today's low rates are offsetting rising home prices because it's less expensive to borrow money. In essence, purchasing a home while mortgage rates are this low may save you significantly over the life of your home loan. So if we look at the graph, it says the green bar represents today's market, the far right. It shows that homes truly are more affordable than they have been in years, and much more so than they were in the normal market that led up to the housing crash. Low mortgage rates are a big differentiator driving this affordability. So that's a great opportunity. And here's what the experts are saying. All benefits to buy. And you can read them as you see them. There's the 10% difference, you know, favorable mortgage rates. Forbes at the bottom says homeowners are the clear winners. Low mortgage rates mean the cost of owning is at historically low levels. And who gains all the benefits of strong house price appreciation? But homeowners. Right. So that includes owner-occupied homeowners and who else? Investors. I'm getting more solicitations from investors trying to buy my home than I'm getting agents calling me if I want to sell it. Our investment properties. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? So bottom line, when purchasing a home, it's important to think about the overall cost, not just the price of the house. Homes on your wish list may be more affordable today than you think. Let's connect to discuss how affordability plays a role in our local market and your long-term home ownership goals. That's the reason why I like this KCM blog, because it's always moving the client or the prospect toward having an appointment and a consultation with you. So affordability is better even though prices are up, and that's because of interest rates. Next page. Okay, let's look at this. What are your thoughts? When you see this, what do you think? Anybody? Y'all can see that, right?
Yeah, no, I was going to say it's quite impressive to see the 15%. That's pretty, you know, to buy, you don't need as much income. Is that what it is right there?
Yes. I mean, it costs less money to own than it does to rent. The money that you're going to pay in rent is going to get you less house than if you use that money in a mortgage payment, toward a mortgage payment. So I would be, you know, talking to people that say they want to rent a house and asking them, you know, if you knew that you could buy a house and it would get more house for your money than renting, would buying be an option for you?
How do you justify investors' perspective on this?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
How do you justify investors' investment with this graph? When the investor buy and use for rent, what justification? Yeah.
I'm still not. I'm sorry. I'm having difficulty understanding what you said. What you're saying. What you're
No,
asking.
my question is, you know, if the investor buy an investment home and rent it for someone.
Yes. You know, this is. It's a great opportunity for investors right now. You know, I mean, because interest rates are so low. I mean, and interest and rent, and you know, there's a lot of people that evidently can't afford to buy a house or don't think they can afford to buy a house, and they want to keep renting. There's still demand for rental real estate.
Okay.
That's why so many investors are buying. But this is for the people that can afford to buy a house. You know, they can afford to. I mean, what would be the only reason they couldn't afford to buy a house? Most renters.
Thanks.
They don't have the down payment or bad credit, right? But do you think there's some renters that, if they talk to a lender, would find that they have good enough credit to purchase a home? And most, in some of these articles that we've discussed, it's amazing how many people that think they need to have 20% down to buy a house. So part of our job is to try to educate them. I know I was in a situation one time and somebody called me. It was way back in the day when we first got into real estate. They called, and I was on floor time that day with the first company that we were ever with. And they talked about renting a house. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Have you thought about purchasing? He said, well, I don't think I can purchase. I said, why not? I don't have enough money for a down payment. And he said, oh, I understand that. Are you a veteran? And he said, yes. Okay. I said, as a veteran, you can get in with nothing down. Really? Just asking those questions. He bought a home for $96,500, and saw him 10 years later. He was still in the same house, and he was ecstatic because he was able to buy a house. You don't know unless you ask questions. But providing this kind of information can help you locate people that might express an interest. And those are the facts. All right, any thoughts or ahas? Questions? Ready for the data? Okay, you all took naps beforehand? Numbers don't put you to sleep, do they? Here we go. 11 listings for REOs in Pinellas County is the lowest number I've ever seen. Years ago, they were in the hundreds. 500, 600. Hillsborough, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I forget exactly what year, they were at over 900. 11 listings, down from 22 in July. Actually, 23 sold. So there was more listings that actually sold than are active currently. They sold at 97% of list price. The absorption rate is 209%. The solds divided by the actives equals the absorption rate, 209%. The month supply of inventory was a half month supply of inventory. That's about as strong of a seller's market as you can get. Would you agree with that? Okay. So short sales in Pinellas County, only 6 active currently. 9 sold. They took 100 days from contract to closing. So the buyers that were under contract with those short sales waited about 45, 60 days for an answer from the bank as to whether the price that was on the contract that the seller accepted would have been acceptable to the lender. 150% absorption rate, up from a 72.7%, and a 0.67 month supply of inventory for short sales in Pinellas County for August. Next page. Non-distressed properties in Pinellas. Active listings as of a few days ago are at 3,068 total active listings, down from 3,203 in July, but down by 1,428 listings, or 32% since last year at this time. So active inventory is down by 32% in Pinellas County year over year, while sales jumped by 189 sales, or 9.7%. Went from 1,950 last year up to 2,139 with 1,428 less listings. So when sales are rising and inventory is shrinking, what does that mean? The seller's market's getting stronger. The absorption rate's getting higher. More properties are being absorbed. The month supply of inventory is shrinking. So demand is increasing for homes, right? So if we scroll down a little further, we'll see last year in August, the absorption rate was 43.4%. This year was 69.7%. Last year, there was a 2.3 month supply, and it's gone down to a 1.4 month supply. Now, for new agents that have not heard this kind of language before, the month supply of inventory does not mean how long it takes to sell a house. The month supply of inventory simply means that if no new listings came on the market, it would only take 1.4 months for the inventory to be gone. If it was being absorbed at the current pace that we're on. Does that make sense? And the closer to zero the month supply of inventory is, the stronger the market is for sellers. That's why we call it a seller's market. Sellers control the terms. Prices usually rise. There's competition for listings, which put sellers in the driver's seat. Okay? A 0 to 5 months is seller's market. A 5 to 7 month supply of inventory is a balanced or normal market. The 7 month or greater supply of inventory is a market that's better for buyers because buyers have more options and sellers are competing for buyers. The higher the number gets, the stronger of a buyer's market it is. So what's the difference for you between a seller's market and a buyer's market? As agents, what does that mean to you?
It's less work if you're a listing agent. If you got listings, it's less work on your part because you can get the home sold pretty fast.
Yes, the cash flow cycle is shorter. No question about that. So there's not a lot of bedside manner as you would have, as you would need in a normal market when
Right.
when it takes 3 or 4 months to sell, and they're asking you every week, why didn't my house sell this week?
Right.
You know, I turn that around. I you know, in a buyer's market, I call them and say, why didn't your house sell this week? Ask them the question before they ask you the question, right? Does that make sense? You know,
Yeah.
It always comes down to the right price for, well, pretty much always it comes down to the right price. But yes, for sure.
So even
the cash flow cycle is shorter. So what I'm saying is don't get used to it. Okay? Because listings are not always going to be money in the bank fast. They're always money in the bank if you price them right, but you can't always control the fast part. Okay? Also, you know, the other thing is the month supply of inventory tells you how many listings you need to have active every month to sell one. So if your goal, if it's say we're in a 2-month supply of inventory and your goal is to sell 1 listing a month, how many listings do you need to have active at all times to sell 1 a month? 2.
2.
Okay. And if your goal is to sell 5 listings every month, have 5 closings on listings alone every month, how many active listings do you need to carry at all times?
10.
10, exactly. Now let's say it's a 7-month supply of inventory, a balanced market. You want to sell every month, 1 every month. How many active listings do you need to have to sell at least 1 every month?
49.
In a 7-month supply, to sell 1, you need 7, right? If it's a 7-month supply and you want to sell 1 listing every month, the month supply of listings number tells us how many active listings you need to carry at all times to sell 1 every month. So if it's a 7-month supply, you need to have 7 active all the times to sell 1 every month. What if you want to sell 10 every month? How many active listings do you need to have to sell 10 in a 7-month supply?
70.
Exactly. Now, in that type of a market, the bad thing about a seller's market when it's a 1.4 month supply of inventory is what?
Well, you're not going to get.
Go ahead.
You're not going to get a lot of sign calls. You're not going to get a lot of chance to do open houses. You're not going to get a chance to market the property because it's going to be gone so quick.
Right. The marketing of the listing is not going to happen to any significant degree. True. But the other thing is you're going to have sellers don't think they need us. So you're going to have more FSBOs and less expireds in a market like a seller's market like we're in right now than you will in a buyer's market. In a buyer's market, you're going to have more expireds and less FSBOs. And a good thing about a buyer's market or a balanced market is sellers don't think they can do it on their own. Most of them, they feel like they need you. So you get more come list me calls. So it's easier to get a listing, but harder to sell them. And that's where your pricing presentation needs to be right on the money. Right now, you can be in the ballpark and get a listing sold. In a balanced and in a buyer's market, you can't just be in the ballpark. You got to beat the competition. And there's more competition in a buyer's market. Does that make sense? The cash flow cycle is longer in a buyer's market. Instead of listing it today and getting paid in 45 to 60 days, you might list it today and not get paid for 6 months. So the cash flow cycle is a little bit longer. And you shouldn't be afraid of any market. All the market is doing is dictating strategy to you for your business and helping you help clients understand the strategy for them to succeed in whatever market that we're in. The market does not dictate your level of success. It just dictates strategy. Does that make sense? Because do houses sell no matter what the market is? Yes, they do. Okay? So we understand seller and buyer's market? Can't see all your faces. The pictures look great, guys, but I really miss you nodding and saying yes or
Yeah.
okay. All right, so moving forward. I just started doing this about 3 months ago. I ran on September the 9th, I ran all the actives, pendings, and solds for each county. Solds I ran for the previous month. So those solds are for August. And this combines distressed and non-distressed. So every listing in the MLS, even auction, everything that was there. So again, this month the active listings are 3095 total. Last month they were 3238. The number of pendings in Pinellas this month are greater than the number of actives. Last month they weren't. So in this month, the number of pendings are greater than they were in the active inventory. And the sales dropped month by month, but that's more seasonal. 2172 is still probably one of the highest. It might be the most ever for August, but we'll get to that in a few minutes when we get to the MLS reports. Okay, next page. Thank you, Tamara. Pasco County, only 14 active REOs active in the market. 28 sold. Those 28 that sold at 99% of list price. The absorption rate was 200%, the solds divided by the actives. And the month supply of inventory, like July, is only a half month supply. So that means if no new inventory came on the market, it'd only take a half a month for everything to be gone and for no REOs to be on the market. Very strong seller's market. Short sales in Pasco. Only 10 of them, 9 sold. 129 days to get from contract to closing. That means buyers waited about almost 90 days for an answer from the bank. That's the downside of short sales, buyers waiting. And you waiting too. The absorption rate was 111%, and the month supply is less than 1 month's 0.9 month supply of inventory. Again, very intensely strong seller's market because they're so limited in options. Non-distressed, here we go. Look at this. Year over year, there's 1,270 less listings active in Pasco than, and also that means almost a 48% drop in active inventory year over year in Pasco. Yet there were 167 more sales with 1,270 less listings. So the inventory dropped by 48% almost, and the number of sales increased by 14%. The definition of a seller's market getting stronger. 1,381 active listings, 1,368 sold. Almost 100% of the market got absorbed. 99.1% absorption rate.
1 month.
Look at what it was in August last year, 45.3. The month supply of inventory for non-distressed in Pasco dropped from a 2.2 month supply last year to just a 1 month supply this year. That's the definition of the best time in history for sellers to sell their homes. Make sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
Because 2.2 is not a bad number.
Oh, it's a great number. Well, it's a great number for sellers, right? Right.
It's now even better.
Right, and the interest rates make it a great time for buyers, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Next page. Interesting, inventory dropped month by month, but look at how many more pendings there are in Pasco than actives. Pendings dropped a little bit too, but I think the percentage is probably percentage above active listings that the pendings are is probably a little higher. Might be about the same, but I didn't do the math. But you're talking about 800 more pending than there are actives, and sales dropped just by a little bit. They usually drop off more from July to August, but they didn't. So it's make hay while the sun shines, and in service of your buyers, find listings. Hillsborough, next page. $26 active REOs. That's the lowest number I think I've ever seen in Hillsborough. And 39 sold. So there were more sold than there are active. They sold at an average of 101% of list price. So that means they sold more than the list price on average. That's 150% absorption rate, or a 0.67 month supply of inventory. Very, very strong seller's market. Short sales. $20 actives, 7 sold. They only took 98 days to get from contract to closing. 35% absorption rate, 2.9 month supply of inventory. And that's the highest month supply of inventory of all the counties, short sales in Hillsborough. Then we get to non-distressed in Hillsborough. And again, we see a significant drop, not only month over month, but particularly year over year, from 5299 all the way down to 2916 active listings, which is a 2383 listing drop, or a 45% drop in active inventory. Sales were a little bit less year over year. There are about 34, only 34 sales less, with 2383 less options. So sales number dropped from 2671 down to 2637, which is only 1.3%. So even non-distressed in Hillsborough averaged 99% of list price. The absorption rate was 81.2%, up significantly over last year, 50.4% up to 81.2. And it went from a 2-month supply last year to a 1.2 month supply currently, which is a very, very strong seller's market. Okay, next page. And again, going through this last page for each county. Look at the number of pendings again, and how many more pendings. Inventory dropped, but pendings went up month over month. Sales dropped a little bit, but that's typical from July to August. But we'll look at those numbers in a few minutes. So what are your ahas, thoughts, questions? Anybody?
Gary, are the pendings higher because they're not appraising, or
No, they're higher because they haven't closed yet.
Oh, okay.
That's how much demand there is for inventory. They're popping off the market as soon as they come. That active inventory number does not measure new listings that come on the market each month. That might be another number to look at. But most of the listings that are coming on the market are going under contract within days. So that's why pendings are so much higher than actives. Does that make sense?
Yep. We're just seeing.
I'm sure that some of those pendings have their own issues, and we don't know what percentage of them actually close. But the point is it's interesting to look at that pending number because it's just a sign of how much demand there is out there in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is if we did have the same amount of inventory even as last year, how many more sales would we have? If there were 2,000 more listings in Pinellas, if there were 2,000 more listings in Hillsborough, just multiply the absorption rate to those, and that would tell you how many more sales we would have each month, and they would be unbelievable record-breaking months. They're record-breaking months already with the diminished amount of listings. That's how strong the seller's market is. That's how much demand there is for inventory. So what's in surplus right now? Buyers. So how do we get sellers to raise their hand?
Ask.
Market your buyers' needs. When you have a glut of inventory, to get buyers, you advertise your listings, right? So why not advertise your buyers' needs in order to get listings? Why not search withdrawns and expireds with the same criteria you're searching actives for your buyers? Why not preview FSBOs and start your own inventory log? Your own kind of FSBO MLS. You'll get better at working FSBOs.
Gary, I have a question.
Yes.
I have a property. Okay, so if I wanted to figure out the average time that's on the market, I would take that price range of the units sold in that county, divide it by the units that have been active. That's going to give me the absorption rate. And then I take 100 divided by that absorption rate, and that will give me the average.
No, that's not how you figure out days on the market. They tell you days on the market. Let's go back to, if we can we go back to the Hillsborough County non-distressed page?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I want to show you where it is.
I thought it was somewhere, and I'm sorry. I just got.
That's okay, hon. You see under average, look under solds. You see 2637 solds?
Okay, I've got to flip this around here. Okay, Hillsborough County. Okay, and where am I?
You're looking at average. Look at the column that says average at the bottom. To the right, it says days to closing. Then days to close, ADOM, CDOM.
Yes, yes.
ADOM.
Yes.
And CDOM, that's how long it took to get a contract, okay? For those 2,600 properties that went under contract.
Okay.
It took 91 days to get to closing on average. So days on the market are with your, in the MLS with your CMA format, your quick CMA.
So the property is 460,000. So the average days on market for that property?
I would just do a search for that property in that neighborhood.
Gotcha.
and do a quick CMA. Pull out the souls in that neighborhood for the last 6 months or to a year, and that will tell you what the average days on the market is.
Gotcha. Okay.
That help?
I was thinking of. Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, anybody else? Ahas, thoughts? Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Gary, so when you're working with a buyer that wants to overprice their house because there's houses that are one neighborhood over that are getting higher prices. And yet there are closed properties within their neighborhood in the last 6 months that are lower prices. You can't really go outside the neighborhood, right? Or does this market dictate that we could get a little bit of a higher price because we're just so short in inventory?
It could. It would depend on how many comps that you would have in that neighborhood
So
that
you
are,
got
that are similar to the subject property. Okay.
Okay.
If there are, 3 or 4 sales in the last 6 months or last 3 months that an appraiser could use, then he'd be forced to use them if they would fit his criteria. Otherwise, he can use outside. The other thing that's important to measure is supply and demand in that neighborhood. If it's a crazy seller's market in that neighborhood as well, it might dictate a higher price. You follow what I'm saying?
How do you find that out? Days on market?
Well, you do a CMA of the property and find out what's sold and what's active and what's pending in the neighborhood, right? And
Yeah.
that will let you know what's going on in that market. Appraisers are going to be.
Keller Williams Realty, this is Brian.
Excuse me. Appraisers are going to use basically the last 3 months of sales, whatever their criteria is, and is close to the subject property in location and as well as features also to justify the price. So I would search in the MLS for comps in the neighborhood to see how many have sold, and then I would do a zip code search to do the supply and demand analysis to see how many are active and how many are sold to see what the month supply is. So say there are 30 actives, but 60 sold in the last 3 months.
Okay.
So if 60 sold in the last 3 months, how many sold every month?
3 or by half?
If 60 are sold over the last 3 months, that means that 20 are selling a month, right?
Yep.
So if there's 20 for sale, that's only a 1 month supply of inventory. So that would mean that it's a real strong seller's market. Does that make sense? So you just do a search to see what's going on in those price points, and just do the math as far as solds divided into actives or divided by actives to determine the absorption and the month supply of inventory. Just like we're doing here, you can customize it and see what's going on in price ranges and in neighborhoods. Now we're going to get to that in a minute. Let's keep going, and hopefully this will help you also. Let's keep going.
Thank you.
Okay. The reports again provided by Denise, which is from Pinellas Realtor Association, but they don't provide the same format. So Denise likes the old format like I do, because we have 6 years of history here. And you can see at the top of the page, that's active inventory since 2016, month by month. And you can see we've had this incredibly shrinking inventory for a little while now. 3473 is the lowest number on the page. That's why it's circled. And if you look at August last year, it was 4883. Now this list of active inventory includes all listings. It includes actives. It includes distressed and non-distressed. So in Pinellas County, there's 1,410 less, 28.9% less year over year. As far as number of solds, 2,135. So it's interesting, right? In a month where there's 1,410 less listings than there were last year, there's 124 more sales. Okay, and August was the second highest month the second most sales in the last 5 years. Let's scroll back up. How many properties were for sale in August of 2018? 5,549. And that was the only year in these last 5 that had more sales. But it was over 2,100, almost 2,100 more listings to get a few more sales. 16 more sales. You follow what I'm saying? You with me on that?
Scroll down.
Scroll down, you can see 2151. So 2135 is the second highest August we've ever had as far as number of sales. And we did it with 1,410 less listings than last year. Pretty amazing. Okay. 6.2% is the increase in number of sales. The overall absorption rate when everything is combined, solds divided by listed. Whenever you have solds and actives, you can figure out the absorption rate in the month supply of inventory. And the formula is simple. Solds divided into actives. 2135 divided by 3473 equals a 61.5% absorption rate. Now, you divide 61.5 into 100, that will give you the month supply. And there you go. That's how you calculate month supply of inventory. Very strong seller's market overall. Okay. On the next page, we see a breakdown of, on the top of the page are the number of active listings by price point. And at the bottom of the page are the number of solds by price point. With this information, and Jake does this every month, you calculate the month supply of inventory and absorption rate for every price point. So whenever you go on an appointment, no matter what price point of appointment you go on, you have the general information of what's going on in those price points, which can be revealing. Now, since you talked about 465, Maureen, is that, what county is that in? Is that Hillsborough or Palmer?
Hillsborough.
Okay, well, when we get there, we're gonna look at those numbers, okay?
Great.
Okay, the next page is a graph. And you can see the graph is getting, the mouth is getting close, is shutting. And because the top of the top part is identifying the number of listings, the bottom is the number of sales. And we can see inventory is dropping, sales are increasing. So that means that the market is getting tighter or stronger for sellers. On the next page, you see Pasco. And Pasco 1,614, again, is the lowest number on the page for active listings since 2000, and that's when you look at August last year, there was 2926. So that's a 1,312 listing drop or a 44.8% drop in active inventory. Meanwhile, sales in Pasco went up by 12.4%, and it was the highest number that August ever had. With 1,312 less listings, it was the highest number of sales that August ever had. So 84.1% absorption rate, or only a 1.2 month supply of active inventory. 150 more sales this year than last year, with 1,312 less listings. Okay, and Pasco, the same thing. We see the same thing. These are the numbers by price class for actives and numbers by price class for solds. Okay. And the mouth getting very small. When the mouth opens, it's getting to be a buyer's market. When the mouth is closing, it's getting to be stronger seller's market. So let's go to Hillsborough. Again, same story, 3,294, the lowest amount of inventory. Again, in history, which means it's a great time for sellers. It's 2,368 less listings than last August, or a 41.8% drop overall when you combine distressed and non-distressed. Number of sales, 2,616. That's the highest number that we've ever had in August. So with 2,368 less listings, no, I'm sorry. It was higher last year. Second highest August we've ever had. So there's 24 less sales this year with almost 2,400 less listings. So the absorption rate was 79.4%, or a 1.26 month supply of inventory. Again, overall, a strong seller's market. Now, in the next page, we see, let's look between 400 and 500. We see that right here. Let's just use this as an example. So right now, between 400 and 500, how many active listings are there total?
Active 347.
Perfect, you got it. Now let's scroll down to the number of souls in that same price class.
236.
Right. So how do we figure out the absorption rate?
Well, divide the sold by the active. So I came up with 1.47 months of supply.
Okay. What kind of market's that? Very
No.
strong.
Absolutely. Sellers. Yep.
So overall, I would dig down deeper. Okay. I would check their specific neighborhood, and then I would check their specific zip code, and do the same things, you know, the same thing. Big number of souls divided into the number of listings gives you the absorption rate, and then they figure out the month supply of inventory. And then the stronger of a seller's market it is, the more it justifies pricing it a little bit higher. Unless there's comps in the neighborhood that would validate a significantly lower price. You know, if they don't have any competition on the market, then they can write their own ticket. And if it's significantly higher than comps in the neighborhood, then I kind of be careful with it and prepare them for a potential appraisal issue.
Right.
But I would also let the market dictate how high it goes.
Absolutely.
And then try to protect the seller as best I could when you get multiple offers. You know, obviously a cash buyer with no appraisal contingency is going to have more credibility to a seller in that situation than a buyer that's putting 10% down and needs the appraisal. You follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yep. And it's only been on the market a week. So I think we still have a good chance at it. I think we're priced right.
Okay. Well, have you had any showings yet?
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, somebody's been back 3 times. They want to renovate the kitchen. So they wanted their contractor to look to see if it's possible. That would be a contingency on their home selling, which is under a strong contract right now, scheduled to close October 15th.
Great. Okay. Well, the other way to tell the price may be too high is after you've had 8 to 10 showings, according to the National Association of Realtors. For every 8 to 10 showings, you should have an offer. If you don't have an offer, you could be the bridesmaid instead of the bride. It means you need to change something price-wise or presentation-wise to more favorably compete. And if presentation isn't the issue, what's the only other reason it wouldn't sell?
Location.
Well, price. Yeah.
Right.
Price relative to location.
Yes.
Right. Okay, good. Any questions or ahas? Next page. There's the graph. The mouth got very small, almost completely shut. Okay, we're getting to the point where mine will be pretty soon. So finish strong, right, Tamara? All right, here we go. We talked about humility earlier. True humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. Next page. Now, a free day has nothing to do with money. Has everything to do with time. So a free day is a completely uninterrupted day off. So here's one of our coach's remedies. He says, do you always need to be connected with your mobile device? Look what happens if you say yes to that question. Where does it go? Drop everything, plan a holiday immediately. 1 week. If your answer was no, next question is, do you believe your business can't run without you? If your answer is yes, where does it go? Drop everything, plan a holiday immediately, minimum 1 week. If your answer was no, is your idea of relaxation catching up on work on the weekend? If your answer is yes, where does it go? Drop everything, plan a holiday immediately, minimum 1 week. If your answer was no, do you take your laptop with you to the cottage or on vacation? If your answer is yes, where does it go? If your answer is no, do you believe that taking more free days means less income? If your answer is yes, where does it go? Drop everything, plan a holiday immediately, minimum 1 week. If your answer was no, get a holiday into your schedule and protect that time. You're your most valuable asset. You need to take care of you first before you can be strong enough and present enough to take care of other people. Does that make sense? One more, Tamara, isn't there? One more. And the last thing that I'll leave you with is this. You may think you're completely insignificant in this world, but someone drinks coffee from the favorite cup that you gave them. Someone heard a song on the radio that reminded them of you. Someone read the book that you recommended and plunged headfirst into it. Someone smiled after a hard day's work because they remembered the joke that you told them today. Someone loves themselves a little bit more because you gave them a compliment. Never think that you have no influence whatsoever. Your trace, which you leave behind with every good deed, can't be erased. What you do has impact. And you're valued. We love you all. We appreciate you all. Have a great month. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Gary.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great month.
Very awesome. Appreciate it.
You too, everyone. Peace.